Good day, Hanover Church family. Pastor Pete here. This is your end of the week pastor's update. Today I want to talk about the prayer ministry of our church. You know, we are a church that loves to pray for people and their needs, and every week we have a list. You can see it here. This is this week's list. It's on two sides of the piece of paper, and we pray until we hear an answer. And so let me encourage you, if you have sent in a prayer request, but now that request is answered, let us know so that we can put it from the prayer to the praise column on our prayer list, and that will help us out not to get too lengthy of a prayer list. Um, uh, Out in our lobby, we've put this box. You've seen it, right? Prayer card box, and on the top of it, there's a slot where you can put your prayer requests in, right in front of that box, we've got two different cards. This one says, if you can see it, it says Hanover prayer request card. This is a public one. The public is in green. And if you have a prayer request that you'd like to have put onto our public prayer list that anybody can pray for, then fill out that card. And each week we will add it to this prayer list, and it gets sent out to our prayer partners who will be praying regularly until that prayer request is answered. If you have a confidential request. You can see this one. It's the same card except for it says the word confidential on it, and that's in red. And if that card gets put into our prayer box, then that comes directly to me. And on my desk, I've got several of those that I've been praying for, and I'll continue to pray for the family or the individual or the situation that's going on until those requests are answered. We have prayer meetings taking place throughout the week. There's a prayer meeting that happens on Monday nights at somebody's house. If you want to be a part of that, just find out where it's meeting on that week. It's listed in our prayer calendar and in our calendar for the church, and you can show up at their door and pray along with them. But on Tuesdays at 6:30 in the morning, the doors open to our church, and you can come in to pray on your way to work for a couple of minutes or throughout the day. The doors are open, and many people come into my office and will pray with me, or several people go up into our sanctuary, and we've taken that prayer list, this one that I showed you earlier, and there's a couple of copies of this on a table that I've put just in front of our communion table, and you can pray up there as long as you want, to your heart's content on Tuesdays. Prayer is so important for a church. A prayerless church becomes a weak church. But a church that is praying becomes a strong church, a vibrant church, and a live church. A couple of weeks ago, I read from this book, A Treasury of Prayer by E.M. Bounds. E.M. Bounds was a pastor and a giant of prayer, a prayer warrior in his day. Let me read from the chapter called The Reality of Prayer. Prayer fills man's emptiness with God's fullness. Prayer fills man's poverty with God's riches. Prayer puts away man's weakness with the coming of God's strength. It banishes man's littleness with God's greatness. Prayer is God's plan to supply man's great and continuous need with God's great and continuous abundance. My friends, if you've not been a part of our praying ministry, if you have never filled out a prayer card, or if you've never come to pray, consider making this a part of your routine. God answers prayer. Our church services this Sunday are at 9 o'clock, and we welcome you to come out to that. If you can't make it, then at least click online on Sunday at some point, and you can watch the service online. And if you have a prayer request, like I said earlier, send it in. We'd love to have you have your needs prayed for. Oh, by the way, if you want to join Pastor Pete's prayer partners, feel free to drop me a line, and I'll make sure you're added to our list. God's blessing, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.